Welcome back, and I'll tell you what, you do not want to be the favorite heading into a game today. With wins for Avant, Gravitas, and Mammoth, absolutely a huge amount of upsets here on the first of a few Super Weeks coming up for the OPL. Skimmy, I think you were the most delighted by all of this.
I mean, I'm just lost for words, right? There's a part of me that goes, what am I watching? How do I commentate this? Because even now I have no idea what's going on. But when the likes of Spawn goes, yeah, I'm confused too. You sort of think Super Week is really kind of delivering in a world where there is nothing really much going on except just staying in your room begging for sport. I think you really want some entertainment, and that's definitely what we're getting right now, right?
And it's just
Absolutely.
wild result-wise, though. Like, and not just the actual results themselves of the games, but like when you come into a season of League, you hit the split, you hit your honeymoon period, and like things are going well, even if you're losing. And then you knuckle down and you get serious, and that's usually where the cream of the crop starts to really rise above. Is they still get those consistent wins, and then like by week 9, everything should just be solid. And it's weird to me that like we've hit this period and nothing's solid. At all right now.
And I want to continue on that point because even the way teams have started to play is in flux. You know, Pentanet normally, if you give them a clear game plan, are so good at playing towards that game plan. And that composition was like, you know, all mid-game champions. And normally when you see Pentanet play a game plan that's all mid-lane champions, they give you the whole 9 yards, right? But I feel like that game, they slowed down to almost a halt in their mid-game. Yeah. They weren't challenging for any objectives. They weren't looking for mid lane turret dives, even when it was 5v3. And they have a Pantheon who has literally the ability to make turrets immune. So I think that was a game where I would really question like the confidence of Pentanet. And I think that we've seen, you know, other areas be challenged as well.
Yeah, Spawn, I was going to say, this is more than just nuke patch on competitive, right? This seems like a bit of a shift in either, like you said, the confidence or the ethos of these teams.
Well, I also think that the area that I would question, because I'm in the same situation, is how do you prepare for all of these teams in 2 weeks? Like the patch changes. I have 7 games, right? I'm playing against wildly different teams. And what you probably do, to be honest, is you say, which games are must-wins for us? Let's prepare for those more than the other ones. And then players' voices pipe up, right? Like, so you're saying the game against Chiefs is a must-win. It's like, no, well, they're first. We're never catching them. Head-to-head doesn't matter. Like, we need to be able to beat PGG and stuff in the next couple of weeks. So I've honestly had these conversations with our team. And then you're like, these are the bonuses if we win. And these are the ones we need to win to actually make playoffs. And I think that if you overlook a team, and maybe, you know, it's very easy to overlook something like a Mammoth in your preparation, then they come out with this composition that is double 80 bruiser, which they haven't played all that much. And Lived is a very good bruiser player. You get a little bit stumped, and maybe the game does slow down because you are trying to fight them when they're strong as well. And you're not used to playing that way.
Well, I'll tell you what. A lot of us might be bored, stuck at home, but it's not boring here on the OPL. But if you are stuck at home, we thought you could be stuck at home with some League of Legends champs. So I am introducing the 5-stack.
Have fun, bro.
That is a whole lot of League of Legends champions, and it is the 5-stack. So on here, this is a segment where we're going to decide the top 5 champs that you would want to be stuck in a nationwide lockdown with. So the criteria is basically you can stand to be around these people for up to a month, and you're happy to keep them in your house. Yeah, let's go with a month for now. Let's be optimistic. Rusty, who would you, out of all the League of Legends champs, like to be in a lockdown with?
Can we just, like, before I answer this, just make it known that Sport has left? Because he's just suddenly become an image. He's not here. Order's about to play. Off so Sport is
to do
gone.
Draft.
Just so everyone knows, that's where he's gone. I think that we're going to go by size of champions based off, like, in-game, right? Not lore. So, like, fight the literal mountain. Okay. I would go Yordles because they're tiny.
Just for space saving? That's nice.
Well, yeah. And then I would pick maybe, like, 1 or 2 characters that would be okay to be around. So, like, Sona doesn't speak. Sona can't speak. So, probably Sona for one. And then maybe, like, Braum because he's just a nice guy. And then Yordles.
Braum seems to go against the opposite of what you're saying. Like, he comes with an enormous shield that I've never ever seen him put down. That's true. I don't know. Do you want a guy with a shield just wandering around your house the whole time? I've got a toddler. He carries like a little drum everywhere. It's annoying as hell.
It's fair.
It'd be interesting. Rusty would have his own like personal white knight.
That's true.
Shielded. He'd be shielded from all the dangers of the outside
world.
world.
Comes with poros too, and you know, I'm an animal person.
Okay.
Well, this is the OPL 5-stack, so I'm happy to accept up to 2 Yordles. Do you have any preferences?
Not Teemo.
God damn you!
I don't know. Well,
we're keeping the
shrooms
theme
everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Actually, I don't know who else.
Poppy could be useful.
Yeah,
like your home
you
maintenance,
play Poppy support,
like
you like
knocking down some walls.
I'm good with that.
Like just some Reno, Poppy and Trist or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Trist provides, but Poppy definitely. Heimerdinger maybe for the same logic as Poppy.
Heimerdinger's a good one.
Inventor.
Yeah, plus he's probably got a wacky personality. So he would be...
I think I'll
Loki
take
Cat says Teemo
Vega.
would go stealth in the bathroom like the creep he is.
Vega? You want an evil villain?
Yeah, no, so I'd go Vega because I'm assuming if there's a world in which we have 5 League of Legends, characters hanging out with us, it's probably the apocalypse. We're probably all doomed, right? So I'm gonna be living out in the wild, and I need somebody to hunt for me. And they're gonna look at my Vega companion like a Pokemon and go, "Oh, like this is a harmless little creature. I'm just gonna one shot it, and there's my meat. I'm ready to go. I'm straight on that barbecue." So I think Vega's insanely OP in my scenario. I think. Otherwise, I'd probably go towards a Bard because then I can just teleport towards, delivery stores. Wouldn't need to pay the pesky delivery fees on Uber Eats. So I feel like Bard is pretty OP.
Yeah, that's good.
I feel like Yuumi is OP as well. Yuumi, because you want somebody that's always buffing your mentality, your physicality. You want somebody that's making you stronger in life.
That's a great choice.
And I think everybody likes a pet, right? So I feel like having a pet dog or a pet cat is just OP, especially if the world is doomed. So I feel like my choices are pretty OP.
I think the Yuumi one is great. Buffing your mentals, cute cat, and she comes with a book, so she can help you keep. You can get some reading done. That's good. Okay, so we've got Poppy, Heimerdinger, Vega, Yuumi. I need to add one more. I would say I like the idea of. I can't decide between 2. I like the idea of Zoe, because she could just you're all sitting on the couch watching a movie and she can just teleport into the kitchen to get something out of the fridge. That seems like that could be a good option that she could just get around the house. I also don't like the idea that she can get in anywhere at any point, but I'll sacrifice that to be able to just get chips whenever I want. And then the other one I'm tossing up between. I like a Mumu, and it's basically just because TP's hard to find right now.
That's
and
smart.
He's just wandering around, dropping it everywhere.
He
throws it out. He throws out
just murder
bandages
you.
like it's no one's business.
He's not allowed to have friends. And I think just by proximity, he'd actually just have a tantrum and you'd just die.
But what if I just kept him in? What if I just kept him in the in the cupboard in the downstairs bathroom, like I do with my toilet paper, and so then I don't need to deal with him. Yeah, just isolate him. We self-isolate a Mumu. Okay, cool. So maybe we go. We go Amumu in the cupboard, Yuumi buffing the mentals, Vega as bait, Heimerdinger and Poppy for home renovations and space saving. Also, all 5 of these are tiny champions. These are probably the 5 tiniest champs in League. There you go. That's your 5-stack of champs you want to be in lockdown with. Send me your suggestions and why on Twitter, or put them in the chat as we head into game number 3. Spawn is ready for it. It is Order versus Direwolves. Direwolves, I don't know if they're ready for it because they certainly weren't ready for game number 2. But let's find out as Order versus Direwolves starts after the Macca's Jam Select.
When the difference
between winning and losing
is measured in milliseconds.
Everything counts.
The Alienware Legendary Battle Station.
Feeling the heat? Grab a pineapple or pineberry frozen Fanta mix at Macca's. With 36 flavours, it's the largest range in Australia. Grab one for only $1. A little goes a long way at Macca's.
Game number 4 now, as we crack on in. It's Direwolves for the second time today, going up against the likes of Order, making their debut on this online format. We've only played once so far, Rusty, so not too much to go off on that, but definitely Direwolves looking to keep themselves firmly fixated in that top spot, whilst Order kind of swinging in a balance at that perfect 7-7 score.
Yeah, big game of questions coming up with this one, right? You've got Direwolves off their loss. You saw what can happen there with the likes of Pentanet.gg in their forthcoming game after their first defeat, looking a little bit shaky. And Order, kind of the opposite, right? Like, we just haven't seen them for so long. They were the team that weren't going to be there in the day that got cancelled. They had 2 games on that day that got cancelled, but it's now playing now, and it's on a new patch, it's a new week. So there's a lot of questions there for the likes of Order to see what exactly they can bring to the table.
Interesting to see also they've been cooking up during that little break, and how this affects things going into this different format that we have. Once again, we're going to see a very familiar bot lane. It's going to be that Misfortune as well as the Nautilus. Chippies gets the first pick priority on towards the set as well. Bear in mind that can be played as a jungler, so not going to give too much away. And Order right out the gates. Gems truly are fabulous.
Yeah, they've got the Taric here as the third champion of choice. So Direwolves, it shouldn't really come as a surprise by any means that their priorities, they're forced to go to the Misfortune because they chose set, which means that Order do, of course, get the priority champion in Aphelios. We know that Vital is very good on the Aphelios, so it always feels a little bit bad to give that one away, but we've also seen him quite literally 1v9 almost on the Misfortune once he gets his items up, and that was against the Chiefs. So, you know, there's a lot of potential there. This Taric pick, though, very, I want to say it's surprising, but we have been seeing more and more Taric rising up in solo queue here and there in practice games. So at the same time, while it's surprising to see it locked in first 3 just straight up, they know their matchup, and they're obviously confident in the choice because they've gone straight for it.
And I suppose you could say it's also been, starting to get played a little bit more on a global front too, so maybe seeing some inspiration from other teams are discovering on this new patch. You'll be curious to see how things flesh on out. Silas and Jarvan denied here by Order, and Karthus taken off the board by a Direwolf, so wanting to remove as many protection elements as possible. You can imagine Cosmic Radiance onto a Karthus would be a bit of a terrible affair for Direwolves to engage into.
Yeah, it'd be a nuisance, to say the least. And also, you've got your Silas and your Jarvan taken away here. Also, note that Enchanter supports have been pretty much removed. You've got your Yuumi, your Senna taken away. So, Taric is actually one of the last few healers left standing that has some sturdiness there to be able to match the likes of the Nautilus matchup. Now, Order, of course, with the bans done, look towards their 4th champion of choice. And only, there are a lot of Lee Sin players in Oceania Skimmy, but only has always been one of the few that was above and beyond as OS Lee Sins go. Most of the other Lee Sin players, you will note in this region that are very good, are Korean.
Definitely seen some beautiful plays coming out of them so far. I stuttered for a second because I was looking at the Aurelion Souls like, Shock, don't do it. Please don't. But he's going to stick with the Syndra, wants that reliable stun, CC, engage, and one-shot potential. And obviously with LeBlanc being gone as well, offers him exactly that.
Yeah, doesn't know the matchup, doesn't choose to go for the Cassiopeia here either this time around. And I think that's a pretty good choice here. Go for the Syndra, 1 hit with the rest of your team. Physical damage, jungler now going to be locked in as well. So they definitely wanted some magic damage in mid lane, which was the one thing they really needed to round out that draft. And they have the Nautilus for engage, but now they have a second follow-up option in the Syndra stun.
Oh, what is the pick here for Harry? Where is he going to go when it comes to magic damage? Obviously, they have a fair bit engaged so far with the Lee Sin Renexes to follow things up with. He's going to stick with his Azir. You had to wonder if it was going to be the case. Gives them obviously fantastic scaling ability to mirror what that Karthus could have achieved. But this is a pick that whenever Harry has it, you're always quite worried of what it can achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. Harry is a very scary Azir player. He's one of the few people that will just pick that one up in the OPL without hesitation. Not a lot of teams besides Order are locking that champion in right now. But in saying that, if you're a fan of Oceanic solo queue or you're in the Challenger Leagues yourself, you're seeing Azir everywhere at the moment. He is just a very strong champion. It does command that respect. And with the game length right now in the OPL, particularly today, it's like 37-minute average or something is the game time. Like, Azir comes into his prime in games that go for extended periods. So I like that they've gone for the Azir here, and they've gone for the Taric to really get that late game team fight going for these frontline champions that tend to drop off as well. And so I kind of look at Order's composition, and I do really like that a lot. I think there's a lot of strength behind that.
And I suppose talk to me about this this Tarek Aphelios lane. So obviously Tarek, we're knowing him for the fact that, his ultimate's insanely strong, does have that wind-up time, so you've got to have that good read on how the skirmish is going. Obviously, armor component and stun are the major points, hence why the binding comes into effect when you're linked up with your ally in lane. But against the likes of a Misfortune Nautilus, which we know is so strong through laning phase, is the Tarek enough to really stop the assault from the armor buff that it can be provided?
Yeah, I think it'll be fine, not just because of the armor buff, actually. I think more than anything else, you'd play the Tarek like a defensive type of champion in that 2v2. If Nautilus throws the hook, tries to engage and goes forwards, Tarek then presses his stun at the same moment the hook connects, diffuses the matchup. The one turning point for that could be the level 6 mark, where Nautilus can start throwing his ultimate onto the Aphelios. But like when you consider the champions down there in that 2v2, it's not some kind of like Tristana Tarek where Tristana is going to jump forwards and the stun combo connects. It's kiting backwards and playing more of a strong champion duo in a weaker side play style wise in the map.
I'm quite curious to really see how that actually affects the bot lane priority. We've seen some interesting jungle paths so far with them camping top lane and then for the most part ignoring bottom lane. So I'm wondering if, given this is two sort of aggressive engaged supports, if they're going to look to sort of bear the likes of Lee Sin and Rek'Sai down there to really try and accelerate these two, because Vital is an incredibly great ADC. Rare is one of those interesting ones, right? Especially when he's in his prime, when he's in his I suppose like feeling himself, for lack of a better word. The guy gets creative. The guy does a lot of crazy things, and if you look at the protection they have between Lee Sin's shield, Tarek, and for Lack, maybe even Harry with his defensive ability to disengage. There's a lot of room for him to, exploit that craziness.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of room for him to be feeling himself. I think that to your first point, though, on like, will bot lane be a really gank-heavy or gank-centric location? My expectations are going to be towards no. Again, you've got a Renekton in top lane, wants to be pretty aggressive. Mid lane wants to be, if nothing else, protected. I think what you'll actually start to see is the battle for push in bottom lane, I think, above all else. And then once you've got the push, both supports work very well with their respective junglers and can actually get ganks off, control the river together, look at mid lane together, and start to dictate the pace of the game through those points of control they start to build for themselves. That's definitely the thing I'd be looking at.
What's interesting, if we actually swing our minds back to week 4 when these teams played last, the game lost 27 minutes in its entirety. It was a pretty quick affair at that. Only 4 Drakes were picked up, 2 apiece from both teams. Not the most amount of kills, but definitely Direwolves were able to find an advantage, and that was primarily from Miru, who went 7-0 on a Lee Sin. So now he's going up against only on the Lee Sin, knowing that he is such a good Lee Sin himself, should be quite competent in matching those paths and allowing Direwolves to find a victory to sort of counteract the upset against Gravitas earlier today.
Yeah, definitely. It's gone for the Rek'Sai as well, Mir. It's a soft counter matchup. You can't ever hit the resonating strike on the Lee Sin. When that Q connects, you can't follow it up. They'll be able to track you down, knock you up, prevent the damage. So in a position to try and punish what he knows very well, like you highlight, is that Lee Sin. Yeah, and I mean, the other thing for me, though, is we've just hit this new patch. There's these new champions. We've only really seen the Wukong in the first game and nothing really of the likes afterwards. And all of this, the point I want to make from that is that there's a lot of change in this patch. Even though the changes, some of them were small, some of them were significant, it added up quickly. And with all of that change in mind, Direwolves have always been the team for me that adapt instantly. And I have experience with all of these players because I've coached them last year. Like a new patch comes out and they'll usually come to you on the Monday and be excited to play those champions. It's a prospect of like, oh, Wukong got changed, I'm going to play at mid lane. And you'll see Shock put 20 games in solo queue in a day. And so to not see that 2 games in a row, I find very curious.
I've always been excited by Direwolves, right, for the fact of they are so active on social media, primarily with Ubisoft sort of leading that front with the banter and all the rest of it, but always sort of seeing their solo queue dominance, right? There was a few weeks ago, I believe, when they were sort of showcasing and flexing the fact that they were like all top 5 as a team in solo queue. So definitely not losing that desire to improve and showcase their talents. Yes, there was that big upset. Hats off to Gravitas for taking it to them. I can't see a world in which, they suffer 2 defeats in the sort of same fashion. I feel like they will find a bounce back in their arsenal somewhere tucked away in the back of their heads to not sort of maybe fall victim to the sort of same nightmares maybe Pentanet did in the game before.
Maybe. I mean, one thing they have going for them is a lot of experience.
Yeah.
All of the individual players, besides the 80 carry of Vital, has a lot of experience. So when it comes to how will they bounce back from a loss, I think it should be okay. But you have to look at like how they lost, who they're
Yeah.
losing to, and what that really means. Because their loss to Gravitas was kind of a slow, drawn out affair where it felt bad a lot of the time they were losing, and they could have won the game. So I do still think that the question mentality comes into this one, and the early game probably going to show a lot because there was a strategy from Gravitas, it worked, and will Order have the same type of early game strategy? Well, they're a very aggressive team. So I'd say the answer is likely that they will have some kind of plan cooked up.
Well, we are just waiting to get into the game, guys. I'm sure you're aware. Slight pause at this stage. So whilst we get that one ready on up, we will continue to talk to you a little bit about analysis jumping into this one. I suppose my next question really, Rusty, would be teleports for me. I echoed it at the start of the day, was the biggest takeaway on 10.6, just with the amount of members picking it up and just the movement speed component allows for these crazy flanks and just base recall engages again to follow things up with. Have there been, from what you've experienced in these first few games so far, anything that you've maybe overlooked from the patch notes or sort of solidified on your own opinion?
I thought that the Blade of the Ruined King changes were good. I didn't expect them to be like prevalent enough to, even in a losing matchup, first item Blade of the Ruined King broken. Like, the first game of the day, we saw the Trinity Force versus Blade of the Ruined King item spikes and Trinity Force losing it. So like, I knew it was big. I didn't think it was as big as it was. And the thing with teleport, particularly in a competitive game, is if you don't teleport like the perfect time or the perfect position, it can backfire. But now that you've got the home guard, effectively the movement speed buff when you arrive, it actually helps a lot of shortcomings, or like, the ward isn't close enough, or my timing was a little bit late. It actually helps to, fill that up, and it makes it easier to make mistakes in that 1% and really covers for things and teleport even more prevalent perhaps than before.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to sort of see how teams are adjusting to it, and as you say, the forgiveness of if the ward wasn't ideally placed, or if you're a champion that has no innate mobility off the bat, the fact that you can sort of just get onto a target and then execute your rotation quite cleanly has been something quite interesting for me. I think really the number one factor is just how creative these drafts have been so far. You talk about, or me and Spore mentioned before, you're prepping for a super week where in some cases you're playing maybe a third of your rostered on games, in this back-to-back weekend. So I start to wonder how much of this is tailored towards specific teams, or if it's just, look, we're going to really practice crazy things or try and get an edge on the meta, which you'd imagine is the case, as it is always. Who are the teams that can really rise to the occasion most? But, I'm expecting Direwolves to really sort of showcase that, that first game was an upset, and that, we are wanting to show what we can do. But, Gravitas keep coming at us with surprises, and, you come into this one, you wonder really now, what do Order have up their sleeve, and sort of what they prepare for themselves as we get into this game?
There's so many things to consider, right? Like, who is the best team in the OPL? Is a question that, like, you genuinely have a hard time answering. And then if I follow that up with who is the worst team in the OPL, like, do you say Mammoth, but they just won? Like,
yes.
Like, no one really understands the state of the league anymore. And I think what's interesting is a point that Swan actually brought up before was, how do you prepare for these weeks? And if Direwolves were considered the best team coming in, did they prepare for their game 6, opposed to their game 4, because they play the Chiefs? And maybe they put more time into that than the others. But, with how confusing the league is, I don't think you can afford to do that anymore, to be honest.
I'm just confused, right? Because, you look at the league standings, you got Mammoth 2-12, and you think, they must be a write-off. They must be, hotly favored against. And they just come in with a performance like that, and you go, we're not too sure really what to think anymore. So it's like one of those biased perspectives, I suppose, on looking at the league. And I feel like definitely as we get closer to playoffs, as these games get through, be it fatigue, be it preparation, be it just a edge on the meta, the narrative becomes a lot more of, forget the league standings. Yes, they give you a good position coming into this, but sort of assess where these teams are at right now, because these changes, they keep coming in thick and fast. I mean, I looked at 10.7, and that just changes a whole bunch of things again, right? So there's one part of it says it keeps it nice and fresh for the players and maybe for the viewers at home as well, but I'm sure for the coaches, it's a living nightmare.
It's a nightmare. What are they doing at 10.7?
Like I looked it up before, and it was just like there was nerfs to Wukong already. They were changing the game
He got
to items.
nerfed already as well, so it was needed.
Yeah. I'm just looking up to see if I can find that tweet. But I can't see it off the top of my head right now. It looks like we still got a few technical difficulties. So what we're going to do is we're going to throw it back to Nick so that he can brace you and grace you with all of his presence and funny antics. So let's throw to a quick break, and we'll jump back shortly.
No, there's no break. Hey, Nick.
What kind of pressure is that? That's insane.
This was the break. This was the break.
I don't need that in my life. Yeah, we are just waiting on a bit of technical difficulties. But while we are waiting, I've got some answers from you guys in the chat regarding the two questions I threw out about April Fool's skins. So, power level over 9K says fully sick skin line. Fully sick. So the toilet paper Amumu and the hand sanitizer singed. I reckon that's legit. That's it's a skin range of its time. In a year's time, we can all look back at this and laugh. And also on the OPL, we can now look at it and laugh. Ranger Bree 2 says Infernal Ash. It's a plausible skin line, but she is the Frost Archer. I don't quite know. Well, is there that thing of like a blue flame that gets so cold that it burns? That's a thing, right? Is that a thing?
So cold
I saw Game of Thrones. Yeah, there's a dragon that breathes like icy cold. Look, we're just filling time.
Well, ice does burn, right? Like
ice burns.
The sensation is burning.
Ice burns. There you go. Davo Erlo, always stepping up. Mainly with the puns, though. We've got Glass Cannon, not bad. Quinn gets a motorbike and becomes Harley Quinn.
Is Spawn talking to his team while on webcam?
No, I'm not talking to my team at all anymore. It's a pause. Oh. I'm back.
Well, who are you talking to? You weren't talking to us.
I was just waving at Skimmy.
Were you doing?
I saw him come back, and I was like, "Well, that's a Spawn. Hello."
So
are you doing like the Brady Bunch
like
thing?
that? And then I did like the whole "hello down there, hello."
Yeah.
Dry Ice Burn says for us. So that is helpful. And with something else that is helpful is the amount of time that we just killed, because I believe we are ready to get into game number 4. Let's stop talking about skins. Let's see some League of Legends.
is Super Week, and well, Rusty, been plenty of upsets today. So we're not even going to make any predictions. We're not even going to look at any win conditions.
Yeah, predictions are banned.
They may not even happen, and we may just need to spectate League of Legends and be immersed with the viewers as it unwraps.
Yeah, to be honest with you, there's been a lot of surprises. There definitely has been a lot of upsets, like you mentioned. And if you ask me who's going to win this game, I could tell you who the favorites would have been before the day started, and that would be Direwolves. But it is hard to say for certain. And when we looked at the draft, once the champion select was finished, there was a lot of positive talking points for Order. And so what we should do is we should take a second to actually look at the compositions again, because there was, of course, that extended pause. Apologies for that. And highlight what Direwolves have got going for them. So first thing is that Hayri's gone for Teleport, not Cleanse. So Shock in mid lane with his Ignite actually does have a lot of kill threat. And a Rek'Sai who's meant to handle the Lee Sin nicely through the early jungle clear and, by design, mechanically has counters to the Lee Sin. So there's a lot of strength there for me in the 2v2. Chippies is on a much more comfortable champion in Set for team fighting. The style of those champions, Camille and Set, very similar. But one starts, I think, a bit stronger than the other, if that makes sense, in Set over the Camille. Camille wants to have those items completed. And then bot lane, they're always going to be strong. If Misfortune gets ahead, becomes obnoxiously strong, but is just strong regardless. And then Nautilus for the hooks and the engage tool for the team as well. So if they get ahead early, I find it very difficult to see a way that Order would bring it back without pulling a Pentanet.gg, if that makes sense, and just scaling.
That's not going to be a term that we're going to get much love lost for. I can tell you that. Probably going to get flamed by some of their players. But regardless, let's crack on with this one here. Direwolves up against Order. And I think for me, you highlight some great points. Obviously, I've got my eyes firmly fixated on this Taric. We've only seen it once in the league, I believe, so far. And that was played by Nausicaa on Mammoth. And they ran a composition where it was looking to be used on a Nocturne as they jump in, get the pick, and get out without any pain really being delivered. So you look in this composition, you've got a lot of members that are looking to try and dive, but also definitely can protect that Aphelios as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they utilize this combination of abilities to really get the job done.
While we're looking at the Taric, he has gone for the Steel Shoulder Guards as the first item here, opposed to the Relic Shield. One of the things for that is that it's AD over AP, so there'll be less healing for the Taric to provide, but he'll have more auto attacks and more damage, and his passive, of course, giving two very fast auto attacks will do wonders there for the Taric, but I don't think it actually matters too much. I just decided to talk into it.
I like it.
I couldn't hear.
I couldn't hear, and you know what? That's what happens. This is what happens when you're going live, is things go in your ear, and because we're humans, you can only hear one thing at a time, so you zone into one part. I had no idea what, honestly, you guys said.
I just went into great depth on Taric for no particular reason.
I was trying so hard to listen into what they were mentioning to us from production, but you know what? We'll get there, mate. I'm sure the viewers have been educated, and we might now see some Taric and solo queue. Thank you, Rusty.
No, I hope not. It's not one of the reasons that you'd want to see it. The Taric provides a lot of other things other than starting the Steel Shoulder Guard, which is what I was mid lane.
Mid lane is where the action is at, but Harry will have that mobility to dash away with the soldiers in supply. That's what happens when you don't have a cleanse. That's a flash engage, ignite, and a first blood here for Direwolves.
Yeah, really easy stuff there from Direwolves. Shock runs himself out of mana, but gets the kill in the first place. The kill, of course, going over to the Rek'Sai, but Shock still gets the experience, gets to push this one out, and a free reset in there. And while he doesn't have the teleport, and Harry does, that reset will equalize. And, of course, now the Rek'Sai is going to try and find himself a Lee Sin, who has snuck into his jungle and stolen the camps away.
Only going to do a fantastic job there of getting that jungle and getting on out. Meru would have spotted that, and the pings go down on the minimap, but unable to respond just yet because Shock is back in base. Hook will land, however, in bottom lane. It's going to be onto Ayla, who will be able to tank a lot of that. And Rare with a fantastic weapon assault arsenal right now, able to do damage from afar whilst keeping himself healthy.
That's basically the matchup, right? If Decoy hits the hook and Ayla is the one who tanks it, it goes well, but...
The hook lands again, and I don't believe the stun actually landed onto Decoy. Actually went between them, almost like a very interesting game of Venn diagrams, Throw it back to a little bit of high school because you're back from home. You're not allowed to go to school. Or are you? Who knows? At this stage anyway, Decoy does survive, and 2 from 2 with these hooks.
Yeah, it looks like the second hook almost off cooldown there by Decoy, trying to get in before the spells of their respective opponents, and obviously by winning that trade, forcing the heal out of Ayla, they're in a comfortable position down in bottom lane. You think back to mid, Hayri dying actually kept his flash, so very useful for him to still have that one, thankfully, if Rek'Sai was going to try and make a repeat gank in the mid lane. Of course, Mir having his own flash.
Only heal being used in this bottom lane from that previous attempt. And Harry is still there. It's just one of the delays of the spectator pools that we had from beforehand. So we'll continue with that one. Nothing to be too alarmed about.
Pretty calm start to this one, I think it's fair to say. Only with some very nice moves getting into the jungle of Mirs, has been able to get himself a pretty good experience lead. That is one of the things that could bleed over into, exploding the game in favor of Order if only he's able to get 6 faster and make plays on the map.
These hooks. Decoy is on an absolute tear right now. Going to drop down rear to half. And Miru will have the priority to back them up if need be. Going to pick up the scuttle to start with. May opt to go try and chase down this Lee Sin before he decides to start up that Herald. That Dragon. Doesn't want to make it a 50-50 contest.
Yeah, it looks like he's actually looking to mid lane. Harry does have the push, but Nautilus, like mentioned just during the draft, is free to move now, as they did have priority. And remember, no cleanse for Harry does mean that if the Syndra stun hits, the follow-up would always be there. Of course, Order, hyper aware of this fact, where their opponents would be. They've switched to the other side of the map to take some more experience and camps away from him as he goes towards the Drake.
Yep, definitely only finding advantages right now. He's up by 12 and he's CS department. That's a few camps at least right now as the first Drake goes over to Direwolves. It's going to be a Cloud one. I'm sure they'll be happy that that's not going to be the Soul at this stage of the game. Definitely looking for the Ocean if we can get a repeat of that. I'm sure they'll be living it up big time. Stun once again coming out here from Shock. And Miru is hanging around.
He keeps running himself out of mana, so Shock has had a pretty good time of it in laning phase, but because he's gone for the Sork Shoes rush, he has no mana pretty much all the time. While the kill threat increases, the windows of opportunity decrease, and so that Honey Fruit will be nice to keep him in lane without having to recall. But you can see the advantage that teleport from Hayri does actually have.
Chippy's using his teleport to get back to lane. Swiper still has his online. The lane swap won't take place just yet, but the reset will come across here from Direwolves as they rotate now towards mid, but looks like they will path towards top side and time it out quite nicely, hitting that 8-minute mark for Herald.
That should spot only there, so they should actually see that he is level 6. And now Chippy's, knowing that Lee Sin has crossed through the ward that he just placed, has actually started off the Herald as his team has obviously flipped. Mir behind in experience, but still nothing to be seen from Order yet in terms of making plays. They've actually kept their bottom lane down there, even after the Drake has gone down, willing to sacrifice a couple of objectives to just try and get some extra gold right now.
And, based on the trajectory of these games so far, if you're happy to give away a few freebies, I feel like, it's a worthwhile sacrifice if they can get this to 0 online and give him a few items. Harry has been able to definitely sort of run rampant with it. He's played up against the likes of Legacy, and although they didn't win that game, definitely, emitted so much pressure and did a lot of damage to keep them in as long as they did.
Now Mir with the Herald is actually looking to place this one in top lane, so when you consider all the gold that was picked up by Order, just by getting those extra waves, while Direwolves were resetting or doing objectives, that actually does get undone just by immediately being able to summon that Herald in top lane. 9 minutes in, that'll be all the plates in top lane as well, most likely. Big swing in favor of the bottom lane. Very nicely done by Direwolves.
Very nicely done indeed, because before that, as you say, big CS lead achieved here by Swiper and Only, finding advantages in top and jungle. And that'll give the gold to the member that you want on this team, and Vital with this misfortune, always a threat to be aware of.
Yeah, the real question comes from what do they do from here, right? You've seen that Chippies has gone towards bot lane, but he doesn't really want to show in that wave. They're actually going.
The second headbutt gets baited out there. Vital's forced to burn that flash. Decoy and nowhere to actually help him out. This is a disaster right now. Swiper with the dominance is going to chase on through, but just unable to find any mobility to actually connect. Flash for flash. Vital very lucky to get away with his life.
Yeah, that was the flash from Swiper and the heal from Ayla for both of those exact same summoners off of Vital. It doesn't mean anything right now, of course, with the disengage. It was on someone who was resetting anyway. But what it does mean is that a window of opportunity presents itself to continue to try and kill Vital in the future.
Well, Chippy's back to this bottom lane. So I'm just going to be the first to hit the glory number of 100 when it comes to these minions. Not a familiar situation here for Chippies where he's falling behind this far, but you never underestimate his threat in the game. And I suppose it goes back to your point before about, Camille and Set operating in very similar veins, but Camille needing those 3 to 4 items before she's really sort of known to be that major threat. Set definitely, once it's got an item or 2 online, always going to find value with the face breaker and the slam dunks.
Yeah, still very significant is the CS difference. And, a lot of that can be attributed to the vertical jungling that we started to see in the earlier stages of the game. Only was definitely on the top side jungle. And Chippy very clearly respects that fact. I mean, there could have been some trades that we didn't get to see up there as well. But Swiper, in a very comfortable position with CSD, now has the freedom to rush that Blade of the Ruin King very quickly and be in a very good spot for team fighting. If not just split pushing anyway, because that Blade of the Ruin King on a melee champion, kind of bonkers.
Absolutely. It's definitely been a case of rushing on every single champion so far, as Drake is up in 40, and you can see now both junglers basically just stuck in this bottom lane, not allowed to even go to their top side. All those camps have been cleared out except for Gromp and Giants, but leave that to the 2 Titans in the top lane. And look to try to establish yourself, not only some vision, but some priority to be the first one on that and make it a clean sweep.
I mean, we're almost 12 minutes into this game, which is about a third of the average game time today in the OPL, and it's still only 1-0 in kills, and the gold is dead even. So these opportunities do exist. These opportunities do present themselves. No summoners on a misfortune, at least on the other side. There's definitely moments when these opportunities present. It's about, do they take them? That was the first look in mid lane, basically, as we were speaking. I'm not able to find it.
Yeah, you could see that Syndra was really, really keen to have that follow-up. Burns everything. Keeps the ignite, but the ultimate goes out, but barely scraped the skin of that Azir. Lee Sin was on the flank. But it is a big day for Order, obviously, after this. To close out the day, they are taking on Chiefs for our final game of the day. So, to have a glimpse on a new patch when we haven't seen Order play in a while, maybe it's a welcome party, or maybe if you're Spawn, you're not happy at all.
I mean, it could just be finding their sea legs back in a competitive game, but they'd still be scrimming even in the times that we're not seeing them anyway. So I think it's a very conscious choice. Play super slow. They've been trading across the map anyway, and it's not like they're weak. We mentioned it in the draft, but their scaling is wonderful. The Azir, the Aphelios are always going to be a big deal. Renekton going the Blade of the Ruin King build is actually a powerhouse split-pushing champion. So always going to be a force to be reckoned with. And so just being able to scale in this game and let it progress naturally is never a bad thing.
Well, they're going to finally take down that bottom turret, and they're going to even out the damage that was done in the top lane before. They're going to go for a full reset here as well. Trick was achieved by them moments before, and Swiper is going to continue having fun in the top lane. And I suppose now we look to sort of see, yes, this is a player with a ton of experience, arguably the biggest veteran in the league at this current state. How we can utilize this CSD and sort of influence these team fights, or if they're just quite happy to say, look, I am winning my lane. Let's just keep playing as slow as it is with only a kill in 13 minutes and just keep getting this Azir fed resources.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be the objectives, right? So this is an Infernal Rift now. The first Infernal is going to spawn in 3 minutes and 50 seconds. That's definitely going to be something worth fighting for. Both teams are able to get 3 Infernals on the Soul. That's a pretty game-breaking amount of stats if they get all of those. And then, of course, you've got Herald number 2 coming up shortly. And that being able to break turrets, now we're past 14 minutes, the damage it'll do is crazy to something like a mid lane outer. These objectives are definitely places worth putting attention and focus towards and perhaps committing to your 5v5 for it. And that's where you have to bring your attention beyond that to do we have the items to fight? Do we have the levels to fight? Are we prepared for it? And the teams are getting closer with every passing minute to being at that exact point. The Syndra's the one champion, it is there.
And that's going to be Decoy walking into a bush, surrounded by multiple members. 3-man collapse, the 3-man stunned. He can try and get Decoy locked on out. Nautilus forced to disengage. Teleports come on in, and they're not really going to find much as a result. The disengage will take place, but that will buy themselves a fair bit of pressure to freely rotate to this Herald.
Yeah, it seems the stopwatch kept him alive. Swiper did use the ultimate, and Shock is hunting still here. They may try and pressure Order. I don't know if they're going to commit to the Herald. They could be right now. It could be only currently soloing that one out. Chippy's here, though, means the Direwolves may try and contest.
Direwolves will have the ultimate advantage, so bear that in mind. We'll be able to look to try and make something happen right now. That's going to be Shock to try and open things up with the stuns. Not going to find anything, but Ayla actually flashes on forward to try and take it the mid lane of the Direwolves, but he turns around. Harry finds the kill. Both mid laners getting aggressive and finding kills, but that's the man you look to see do the job. Big Rare 7 finds the dream. No play on words. It's Velios getting a double.
Yeah, Swiper actually kicking that one off with a flash stun, but at the same time as he does that, he's pushed away by Shock. And unfortunately for Direwolves, they run themselves out of mana once again, as the sustain of order through that fight proves to be just too much. Of course, we'll get to see this one more time. Mir very low before the fight starts, keep that in mind. And you can see that stun that actually kicks this one up. Chippy misses his face breaker, and Ayla flashes forward to try and keep Shock out of it. And at the same time, Hayri left completely uncontested during this fight because the focus is elsewhere. You know, Swiper in front of them, Ayla flashing in front of them as well. Well done from Order to get themselves the kills.
Fantastic performance there, burning a lot of resources to make things happen, locking the crucial members down. I suppose only will be a little bit upset there because the perfectly sort of timed flash over the wall from Tarek to lock in place Shock, then the kick to connect, and then just the raw damage that really came out there to make sure that that execution wasn't going to be a threat. But you know, Decoy is getting much, much closer to that scary moment as a tank. I'm sure once, you know, the stone plate is online, which is not too far away, he's got all the major components for it, he's going to be able to do a lot more sort of face-shaking plays like that and not get nearly as punished.
Yeah, whereas the Tarek is going to be a bit more ult-reliant, has of course gone for the Redemption Rush, so not going to be able to pop a stone plate. It means you can't afford to make any mistakes, as right now, this is a Swiper-favoured trade, for sure.
The dash on through, Slice and Dice does its job, the flash goes out, the grit comes in, the damage is there, the Swiper unable to find it, unable to get that kill.
No, but he'll get the turret pressure at the very least, Skimmy. He'll be able to push that one in nicely, considering he won the trade. It's a Blade of the Ruin King versus the components. And so they're picking their battles at the correct times. They're picking it at the item spikes. And once again, Swiper, he had the lead early, and he's using it again.
Absolutely is. Gonna get that turret down and still keep this 50 CS lead healthy. Action looks to be taking place in mid lane still, as multiple members are keeping themselves active there. They're looking to try and break open these mid turrets, which are still rather healthy. Order's faring a little bit worse at this stage, but a lot of that comes from the aggression that Direwolves can really emit with their free stack.
And Mira is a very fragile champion right now on this Rek'Sai. You see his health bar just casually glide past your screen, and you'd think that the stiff breeze would actually take him down right now. He needs to really respect that ultimate that comes out of him has to be used perfectly if he wants to be able to survive through a team fight. As his role is kind of to stand in front of the carries of Shock and Vital. It's almost just that he will die from now on.
Yeah. It's almost guaranteed at this stage. Well, there's going to be an Infernal Rift, which obviously has implications on more damage, as if we need any more of it on these teams. It's going to be the first one picked up here by the Direwolves, based on the fact that they were able to find priority in mid lane. Only tried to start off the Hero, as you can see from the tail end of that screen, but they would do enough damage and able to keep his team preoccupied enough to really offer any assistance or make a contest.
Yeah, just chooses to disengage, and once again, there's no harm in trying, and if you can safely get out, you know, continue to do so. Decoy once again going to get his recall cancelled, must be getting closer to that item and definitely needs some wards. If they want to even consider contesting this Herald, as only after disengaging, they'll get mid priority. Definitely get vision control, as you can see right now, and that should just be a free Herald.
Yeah, without the vision there and that ability for him to reset, I'm sure if they you know, notice that they are still disengaging away, especially now that Shippy's just showing bot lane without TP, no contest available. Second Rift Herald here picked up by Order. Now we're curious to see where to decide to use it to try and break open these bases.
I think you just break mid. You know, Swiper's in a pretty comfortable spot in the 1v1 for his own devices. You know, he's able to take those trades as you saw from him before. And you could just plant him up into that top lane. At some point, he'd be able to break the turret. The alternative to that is use it to break top lane and then put Swiper in that longer lane with the turret gone, because then he has a higher kill threat against someone like Chippy's being able to chase him down. There's a couple of options there, but I do think, you know, mid priority is so valuable in competitive League of Legends. Probably just use it to break mid, especially past the 14-minute mark on the second Herald, as it just smacks a turret with no plates.
Well, Chippy's going to do a great job now, just sticking it out, not falling victim to any further damages, or I should say deaths, actually. Still sitting at 0-1 and getting closer to evening up that CSD, bringing it out to 25 as opposed to 50 beforehand. Direwolves are sitting in his bush, completely locked in vision with the control ward there. Decoy making sure to protect Vital, making sure that he doesn't get picked off in mid 3, as it does look to be, the plays just to break up in mid.
Yeah, but Direwolves are missing, right? So Order may have looked at it just then, but you've got Shock, you've got Mir just hovering in the wings. And so Order are actually very diligent. They'll push through mid, they'll try and get some control on the top side of the river. And if no one shows yet, they might consider the Herald. But Direwolves have actually been navigating that vision as best they can. They're doing it at a deficit. They don't want Order to see them. It's vital.
Bear this in mind. Well, they tried to go for the flash kick to set up Tarek. Stunned perfectly there. Wasn't going to be the case. Stun's getting used here by Oli. It's a big sonic kick to try and juke them out of harm's way. Finally now the Herald comes on in. And they want to pick up at least something from their attempts in mid lane.
Yeah, it'll just be damage onto the turret from the looks of it. And they'll just disengage. You know, the threat of Direwolves is too great to go forwards and actually hit that turret. You know, Azir now shows in top wave. You've got 2 minutes till the Drake, so that's probably the thing that they'll look at once again here, Order. Unless they can get some picks beforehand, such as...
Looking at bot lane now, Dominus gets popped very early on. Oli in support, Ayla there to assist as well. The full collapse here from Order, and Chippies has nowhere to run, no team to support, and they're all locked in place elsewhere. Order executing beautifully there.
Yeah, again, they've got the vision control through mid lane priority. You can see that it just gives them a free highway down the river to be able to find themselves a Chippies. And Chippies in a position that he definitely wishes he wasn't in right now, as it's just a free pick for Order. More gold into their pockets, more control over the map, and generally speaking, just more momentum.
Well, the momentum is looking good so far for Order. They've held control of this lead from the start of this game and haven't shown any signs of wavering on that. No mid-game shenanigans where a team fight has gone a little bit the wrong way. I mean, still, look at this, Rusty. Only 6 kills in 22 minutes. We've not seen a full blown-out team fight as crazy as we saw, you know, sort of the maybe remnants of what could have taken place in that Rift Herald earlier on. We've definitely not seen, you know, the full outlay of what both these teams can achieve when they, you know, guns blazing.
It is most certainly a calm affair on the Rift in the 4th game of the day. 22 minutes in, 6 kills. It's not like the OPL. There are some teams that have those tendencies for certain. You know, always looking at Pensanet.GGs who like to have a slow mid-game. But there's still a lot of reason behind the pace of this game. You know, for a team like Order who have been taking the reins in this one, they've been very conscious in their choices, and they have been very deliberate in the things that they've been doing.
10k gold on Rare 7 right now. 1,000 over Vital. Been a very close game between those two. And we're going to look to see a contest take place towards this next dragon. Order looking to try and delay things. There's going to be the Tarek ultimate, which is just going to delay so much, but it's just not quick enough. Shutdown comes on out. Bullet time and a shock. Doing damage to really shock Ray's existence. Barrier won't be enough, and even heal too. Everything to try and create a buffer before the Cosmic Radiance goes off. Not going to be enough.
Yeah, they'll get a return kill here, Direwolves. 23 minutes in, and of course, the mandatory rare spotting will happen at least once a game. They were able to pick him off this time, and now Direwolves, it'll happen as the Drake's there for them, and that's the 3rd. It's 2 Infernals in a row. This really does actually put some pressure back onto Order. You know, they're able to get some picks. They're able to get the Herald, and they're starting to look good, but, you know, here we are. The gold hasn't really amounted to anything, and they're at sole point.
And it's definitely brought this game back into the fold of things of where, you know, you had a 2k gold lead before. Now you bring that buffer to 400s. Definitely everything to play for. And, you know, it's definitely feeling like a consistency factor of, you know, who can engage in the ADC first, who can get caught out of position first, kind of dictating whether the fights are, you know, desirable or not, as it tends to be.
And I think that it'll just be, you know, with a Baron as the only real objective up on the map besides the turrets, pretty calm once again. You know, we had that pick, it happened for the Drake, and now really it's just about vision control. So if a team makes a mistake or someone makes a very good proactive move, you might get picks, but I wouldn't hold your breath for an immediate team fight.
Well, Shock sitting on that Oblivion Orb, working towards that Rabadon's cap as well. Harry's definitely gearing up too with a CS advantage and ready with the sword complete online. Now, what is the dream situation? What sort of power spike item-wise are we looking at for this Azir before he really wants to say, I can 1v9?
Well, he's actually got a lot of components for items right now. So once he gets the Ludens, his damage will be set. But going for the Zonias is definitely going to be very valuable here against the opposing comp. You know, you can use the Zonia to stop a Rek'Sai ultimate, Nautilus ultimate, set W perhaps after he ults you. So like having that utility, I think, is what it will take, because those champions that I just mentioned will probably be in his face if a team fight is to break out. 3 items definitely an important factor here. And looking at it right now, especially with the mix-up of very fragile builds on top laners, the Void Staff becomes less crucial. It's really only supports that are tanks right now. And so I think that, yeah, 3 items, he'll be probably peak strength, unless someone starts stacking magic resistance and he needs a Void.
It's interesting to see if he's given that grace to even get to that magical dream of 3 items, the luxury that it presents, or if Direwolves going to put this game on a timer, they're going to hook on that, and that's a lot of damage onto Tarek. That stun looks good, but it doesn't do anything. Does not burn his flash, and hangs onto that Cosmic Radiance. Chippy jumps into the backline, slam dunks one down, buying a lot of time with that tankiness. But he is very squishy, as you mentioned, with that build. Now Decoy jumps in, Stoneplay online, Miro on the hunt, looking to execute with his ultimate. Harry is the target, and he is the focus. He disengages, and he pops his own turret.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's a 1-for-1. It was a support for a top laner, though, and it's Decoy constantly hitting these hooks that's setting the fights up to be happening in the first place. And while it was only a 1-for-1, there were still some low health members there on both teams. And low mana, once again, for the side of Direwolves. So it'll just be the disengage. Opportunities are there, you know, picks are definitely showing themselves sporadically. Team fights just yet as dubstep remix.
That's a clean replay. We needed a screenshot of that. That was almost like you when we were ghosting during rehearsals. I like that. That had to be a GIF. I would have like posted that on every single post you made on Twitter. That would be my response. Just like how you guys memed me during rehearsals, and I'm just lagging, and I've just got that tilt face on. These are inside
record scratch. Freeze
no
frame.
idea.
You might be wondering how I got here.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the Zonius is now complete, as you highlight, Rusty. Now working towards that Ludens with the Lost Chapter already complete. So the timer is on, as I highlighted before, 90 seconds, and Soul Point is being threatened. I mean, if you look toe-to-toe, is it easy to estimate who is still in the driving seat at this stage?
Well, it's hard to estimate who is in a driving seat. A lot of this comes down to setup and timing and all the planning for it, or to have all the vision right now. So it'll be about how do Direwolves get that back. When you're looking at completed items, the Zonias is there for Hayri now, and you've got 2 items for your top laner and 3 for your AD carry in rare. So Auto in a very good spot, and especially after that pick onto Mir, now missing half his health, he can reset still. There's 40 seconds, but it does mean that getting to the dragon becomes significantly harder.
Yep, Auto will allow themselves to sit in this brush. Decoy very hesitant to go for that face check, realizing that surely somebody is still there.
The tremor sensors spotted them, so they definitely know people are in the bush. Decoy just kind of faking it out.
You're going to spot things out there. Definitely playing with fire.
Well, I mean, Direwolves, they could look for an engage, but they'd have to hit Hayri, and it's risky because he has the Zonias now. They have engaged onto Ayla multiple times. If you can kill the Tarek before he ults, it's viable. You can see Decoy, he's got his eye in, he's looking.
The hook misses, the Moonlight Vigil nearly connects as well. That's going to be a look to try and kick him into the team. Stoneplate surviving for such a damn long time between his shield and everything that his kit has to offer. Nobody's going to fall on down just yet. But Reddington finally takes down the Nautilus. But the mid laner there, it doesn't matter if you have a Zonya, you're still dead. Shock, this is peak League of Legends. Finds himself a double kill, secures his team the Soul Point. Because now with a numbers advantage, they can freely rotate.
Yeah, and they're just going to go over and pick themselves up an Infernal Soul at that. It's not just any soul. It is a Syndra having a Ludens and getting an Infernal Soul buff. Ayla's going to come over. It's at 2,000 health. But I think he's just too late. And the rest of Order, of course, not going to be there in time. And what you can't see on screen right now is there's 2 other members of Direwolves. There they are, hitting the Baron. They're looking for the 2-for-1. Order would never expect this.
They really wouldn't. And right now they are in no position to even go for it. They are fully resetting. Lee Sin, the only one there. And this Baron is falling down rather quickly, so this game has completely exploded. Let's see exactly how it all unfolded at the start.
Yeah, it was a kick onto a Nautilus, and the idea here is if you kill him before he can Stoneplate and ult, then it's valuable. But unfortunately, he got Stoneplate, he got ult, and then he got a shield and was pushed away. Swiper, of course, chasing Vital will find it. But the amount of time that took should have just been quick pick, numbers advantage set up for the Drake, and that backfired massively. It was a gamble that only took, and unfortunately that gamble is the exact opposite result of what they wanted. It's a Baron, and it's an Infernal Soul with 3 Infernal Drakes now sitting on Direwolves.
Surely there's a world in which, yes, we now have 6 kills to 6, but surely this raises the tempo from a slow, methodical game into a fact of we have such a massive advantage buff-wise over you that, yeah, you still don't have that Luden's Echo on the Azir, but Shock is massive. He's now got Stopwatch. We've got 4 Stopwatches in our entire roster. Surely this threatens that Direwolves are gearing for an end.
Yeah, the thing that you'd have to look at right now is Shock's Flash. He's probably the last summoner spell the Direwolves will be waiting for if they were going to force a fight. But this Baron buff, there's a couple free turrets just everywhere on the map. You know, the bottom lane outer turret, definitely a free objective they should be looking towards. And it seems like Direwolves, they've shown their hand. They're committing to push bottom lane. Order, will they take the race or will they actually reset? As they've just found someone.
Yeah, Chippy's just taking a whole host of damage. He ran mid and then go, oh, I don't actually want to make this play. Held on to Flash for such a long time. That Decoy jumps in. Cosmic Radiance, they pop a bullet time and just say, you can have your invulnerability. We don't care. Let's go back to top lane.
Yeah, but Order have to base now, Skimmy. Because bottom lane's pushed already. It's prepared. Order, they spent their time chasing Chippies, and now they're going to lose potentially an inhibitor.
Direwolves love this play. They love it indeed. Do they go for the inhibitor? Do they fully commit? Chippy's reset, does have teleport still available for him. And they can quite honestly sit back and play content if they just want to escort these cannon minions in. That'll do in the job. A few autos here from the Misfortune, and that will fall on down. One more will do it. Base is broken. A win condition is now in sight.
And what was a good idea initially from Order? Push down mid lane, just match the trade, you get gold even if they do. Ends up becoming chase Chippies, don't kill Chippies, and lose an inhibitor as Direwolves looking to collapse.
The hook attempt there from Decoy. It's not going to be enough though. He says, I don't care if you missed it because we've got a set. He jumps in to try and delete Harry, and delete they do! Every single member getting on the board for that one. Assist across for the boys. And Harry, that condition that you were talking about of ramping up, he's gone.
Well, there's a 5-0 Syndra on the other team that has an Infernal Soul. Finished the death cap as well. I mean, there's not a lot to ramp up into. There's not a lot to look forwards to when the Syndra is able to one-tap your entire team. Really desperate times now for Order, to say the least. But they have got the Hurricane, so they do have some wave clip, at least on rare. He just needs to really respect those Nautilus hooks, because if he gets hooked, could be lights out.
Decoy looks to be chucking these out on cooldown right now. This may be a last-ditch effort as, well, Swipe just gets deleted. He jumps in, and that's what you're talking about with a squishy build. Chippy's jumping in, going for the stopwatch, looking to try and survive for as long as he does, and that he does do successfully. Cosmic Radiance to protect them in the fountain, but Direwolves won't suffer an 0-2. They will go 1-1.
Yeah, Direwolves will bounce back pretty nicely in that game after their first defeat of the day to Gravitas. That much is certain, and of course they got an advantage, and once they found that single moment, it was actually just dragons. You know, once they got that early Cloud Drake, they set themselves up for an early soul. Even though Order get one back, that's all it really came down to. And once that soul was there, it felt all too easy for Direwolves to snowball the game out. And once again, you get to see one of the best teams in our league use a lead that they actually have and not throw that one away.
I suppose, I mean, like, I want to run it back first of all, obviously, to the amount of lead that Swiper had. You know, 50 CS advantage. You know, what do you think, just in a quick opinion, really was the demise of that? The fact that, you know, Chippies was still able to output so much, or able to just captivate in that last play, 5 members to chase him down a river and just let their inhibitor fall on down?
It just became a delicate balance for Order. They picked the wrong engage once, and that was really all it came down to, and that's what cost them the game, because it was the soul with it. So you'd look at the drawing board and you'd say, just be more careful with that engage.
Well, that does it for game number 4. We're going to jump to a quick break, and when we return, Super Week continues. It's game number 5.